Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm super excited today to have my special guest because we're going to do things a little bit different. Alyssa, I appreciate you being here and I cannot wait to share your story. I cannot wait to have my community hear who you are and what you're all about and where you're headed. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Alyssa, I always ask this to my guests, where in the world they're coming from. I know, but nobody else knows. Where are you coming from?
I'm in Vegas.
You're in Vegas. Not too far from me. It's about a 4-hour drive for me, depending on the day.
Yeah, we're in California all the time.
Yeah, it's nice and close.
Also, it's
Oh, yeah. Okay, have you always been in Vegas?
No, I actually grew up I was born in Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
Grew up in Mountain Home, Idaho, tiny little Air Force town. My dad was not Air Force, though. He actually owned a few businesses there. And then from there moved to Utah when my parents divorced. And then from Utah, moved to Vegas with my ex-husband. And so I'm here now.
There you are. I know.
13 years, I think.
Okay. All right. Nice and hot. It's ramping up for the summer, I'm sure.
Horrible.
And I'm sure you're probably not used to it 13 years later.
Nope. Never get used to the heat ever.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. Okay. So now for those of you listeners that that don't know who Alyssa is a surgical tech first assistant. And now I know that I've shared on this podcast myself being a registered nurse first assistant. We essentially have the same scope of practice. So for those of you that are not familiar with the operating room, which would be probably many of you, we practice under basically the same scope. In some states, I know in California, surgical tech first assists are not under the scope of practice. So we don't use them in California, but in other states they do. So I know that there are plenty of medical malpractice cases out there that use an RNFA or a CSFSA. And Alyssa is one of those. Now, the cool thing about Alyssa is that she was a surgical tech before she became a first assistant, and I was a surgical tech many moons ago. And so Alyssa started sharing her knowledge and skills on social media, and that's how I discovered her. And I'm guessing if you are in the medical field, then you have seen one of Alyssa's videos out there on social media. And I know that my colleagues that I work with daily now have seen your videos and know that I am here talking to you. So for those of you who don't know, if you've been on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, you know Alyssa as, and this is only because it's easy to remember, as the whispering person in the operating room, which is probably what people think of because they don't really understand the roles of the operating room a lot of the time. So Alyssa is the whispering genius, I have to say. I loved her content, and that's why I wanted her to be on the show, because I wanted her to share not only her story, but really kind of dive into, what she does as a first assist. So Alyssa, were you a surgical tech before you went to Vegas? Or did you become one when you were in Vegas? Okay.
I became a first assist, and it's not one role combined. It's actually, I keep up with both of my certifications.
Okay.
I'm a certified surgical tech / certified surgical first assist.
Got it. So you've got 2 certifications. That's really good information.
I can either work in the CST role or the CSFA role. I cannot do both at once.
Got it. Yep. Totally makes sense.
2 completely separate roles. But I came here being a CST, and I have had my CSFA for a little over 3 years now.
Okay.
I've been in surgery for almost 17 years now.
Yeah.
18 and a half, something like that. I don't know. I lost track a while ago.
Sure. I know. Happens to the best of us. Okay. So how did you get into surgery? Because I find this question fascinating for anyone because everybody's story is different.
Mine's so funny because I didn't even know a surgical tech was a thing, to be honest. And my best friend growing up, her mom was a surgical tech. I didn't even know what she did for work. Do we really ask questions?
No.
Parents, like, hey, what do you do for work? No, we're busy like going and hanging out and sneaking out at night.
Totally.
So she's like, oh, hey, my friend said, I want to go to be a surgical tech. I want to go to surgical tech school. And then another one of our friends decided to go. So I'm like, okay, sure. I'll go with you guys. So they decided to go. And then 2 weeks into the program, they both quit. Okay, well, I'm not someone that starts something and doesn't finish it, just the way I was raised, the way my parents are. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay this money back unless I finish it. I got to make the money so I can pay it back. So I finished it, and I actually really enjoyed it. I loved it. I got hired on at the clinical site that I worked at, or I did my clinicals at. I got hired on right after, worked there for a couple of years, and then moved to Vegas.
Yeah. Okay. So I love the fact that well, first of all, it's funny because I just did a podcast last week. That was a similar situation when it came to nursing school. She was like, I don't know. They said they were going to nursing school, so I think I'm going to go do that. And they're like, come along. And they had no idea that that's where they would end up many, many, many years later. So it was kind of similar for myself. I didn't know what a surgical tech was either. It was like my boyfriend at the time. It was like his dad's friend, was going to tech school. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I can't do anything with my bachelor's degree. Maybe I'll work in the operating room. I had no idea. And I was super shy. And I think going through tech school completely changes you. If you're a shy person, you become not so shy. You have to. You can't survive. Yeah. So, and those were also probably back in the day too, is that you got hired at your clinical site. I don't know if that's the case now in Vegas, but I know out here in California, it's very difficult to be hired right out of clinical, which is so sad because I was the same way. I was hired right out of my clinical site.
I think it's difficult because of the type of, I mean, not to say it in the nicest way.
Yeah.
It really depends on who you are and your work ethic. And if you're showing that you're working really hard and they're going to want to hire you. You're doing a good job, you're taking notes, you're that employee, they're going to want to hire you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel like we're not really seeing that as much now.
Right. I agree with that. I think that, and you tell me if you see the same thing. From what I see is that there are so many people going through these tech programs. I think back when I was going through, there weren't that many programs. And so you really had to, I remember I had to interview in order to get into the program. And it was this really big process. So I think the programs were kind of weeding people out before they started. But what I've seen, at least out in California, is that you have so many people coming through these programs that there is really no vetting ahead of time on that, like work ethic and things like that. I don't know if you've seen the same thing.
You just don't understand what you're getting into. Type of thing. Like, let me just try this, but really you don't get a full understanding. I've had students that come and they get a job. We offered one a job she did the clinicals at my hospital, offered her a job afterwards, and then it was like too much, And so the job, which that happens because and I don't fault her for it at all, because I think once you get into the field and really realize what it all entails, like, oh, this is not what I signed up for.
Right. Right. Yeah. I see the same thing. I also see, and I don't know if this is also true, but just from what I've observed is that the programs, at least the programs that are coming through my facility, they're much shorter programs than what I went through. I think I had clinical for like 9 months or something. And these programs are only, I don't know, 2 months clinically. And it's like, how can you really understand or get what you're doing when you're only doing, your clinicals for 2 months? It's really a shame. I don't know if that's the same for you.
Mine was really short.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. So mine was, I think it was an 18-month program, but I actually finished it in like 16 months because you had to get the classroom work done, and then it was hours. And so 540 hours that I needed.
Okay.
And literally the first day of my clinicals that morning, I worked at Kitty Candid's taking pictures of a bunch of kids. And down the morning my clinical started, and I was like, I need a job. I got to bust through this. I need a job right after this. So I just worked my butt off, got as many hours as I could.
Interesting.
Yeah. They really worked me at my site.
Yeah. And you were determined. Clearly you were determined to make it work. And I think, like you said, I think that makes such a big difference. I also, one of the things I want to talk about and why I wanted you on here. One, I know that today is a big day for you. You're launching something big, and go ahead and tell people what you're launching, because this will come out after your launch, but it's a big day for you.
I actually just launched a few hours ago.
Yay!
I have subscriptions. I am super excited. Basically it's an app that you go into. It's called Beyond Assisting, just like my name has been out there. And I've put a lot of stuff that was already on social media on there, but I've also updated it with some new information and new videos. I got a nice new video camera to take some nice videos on, and I learned how to edit better and all that. But I set up this platform for everyone, really. It's for anybody who wants to go on it, but it helps with draping, prepping. I explain the surgery and how it works. I'll give tips and tricks about how to deal with the surgeon if they're, they have a certain personality or whatever. So I'm really excited about it. There are different forums for all the different jobs. It also lists all of the different jobs that are in the OR. So the people that you didn't think were in the OR that are in, housekeeping comes through there. Some places have orderlies that come through there. I worked with places that have orderlies. And then you have med students, residents, sales reps. Not everybody knows that. They don't know there's an OR scheduler right there at the front desk, or the RNs is a charge nurse up at the desk. People just don't know these details. Yeah. But like, to me, I just assume everyone knows. Right. Or if you feel the same way, where it's like, well, everyone knows this because I know it. Right. You start sharing the information, everyone's like, wait, I've never heard that before. That's very interesting. I'm like, I'm just talking about my job. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a patient behind me, Right. So it's been really exciting educating people, and I'm someone who's very detail oriented, and so when I'm in there, I'm like, my notes are ridiculous. I make sure, like, this is exactly how he likes to suture. This is exactly how he likes to position. You got to make sure it's one blanket, folded hot dog style over the plate. Like, I'm very detailed. Yeah. No, it's very apparent in your social media content. I mean, that's what sparked my interest. Is I was telling you before we went live, is one of your videos was talking about suture and the needles we use. And these are the details that I remember learning way, way back when, that has really gotten lost in translation over the years. Even to the people in the OR, the people that are supposed to know those things do not know those things because they just don't know. They were never taught. And it's like you say, it's no fault of theirs. They were never taught. Their preceptors were never taught, so they'll never learn that. So when you were sharing those tiny little details in a very short video, I was like, this person needs to be. I'm so glad that you launched this. And I love the fact that you said that this is for
everyone. And I will tell you that in the legal nurse consulting field, most people don't know what happens behind the red line, and I like to be a resource for that. But this is a great opportunity for those of you, even if if there's a case that comes across your desk, people just don't, it's so foreign to those that work in the medical field of what even happens in the operating room. And of course it is, because like you said, nobody ever talks about it. There's never, I remember looking up, you Google things to see if it's up there on YouTube. It's very, very difficult to find information about the operating room. And whether you're a patient, even, you try to educate yourself as to what goes on. Some people want to know. And as you know, some people don't want to know. That clinking and clanking in the background, they don't want to know that. They're definitely
that they're not dressed.
They don't. Yes, all of those things.
And that's so embarrassing. And and we deal with this every single day. It's a very atmosphere.
Yeah, and
that in any type of way. This is just us doing our jobs.
Right.
And so it's just funny because it's like, yeah, but that's embarrassing.
I know. And it's funny. We say these things all the time too. We tell our patients, it's kind of the OR lingo, it's like the OR secret handshake. It's not really a handshake, but patients typically have the same questions. We typically have the same answers. You could go into an OR in California and an OR in Nevada and probably have the same spiel, to a patient that's going to sleep. It's like, it's this secret hidden underground. But I love the fact that you took that and said, you know what? I'm going to share this with whoever wants to listen, and be that, educator. And I've watched you in such a short period of time, obviously just blow up, but then take that not only and make it something that is useful and helpful. And I wanted to address this. I don't think that we necessarily get it. I know that we as legal nurses, we tend to have to market ourselves, and we're very careful about what we say out there and what we share out there. And a lot of us are educators, natural educators as well. And so you've taken the education piece and you've made it your own. And in doing that, you've also gotten backlash.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is what I definitely wanted to talk about this, because there are people that fear putting anything out there on social media. Let me tell you guys, this girl does not fear putting anything out on social media, because I think maybe it's being in the OR and having that, thick skin. I know I just saw a video earlier today about having thick skin. We tend to have thick skin only because we've been doing it for so long, not because you just walk in the door. But you've taken that and you've kind of turned it on its head, and you've said, you know what? And I feel for you with some of these comments, because your goal clearly is to educate and teach people. You have a kind heart. You have a sarcastic mind, which every OR person has. You have to have a sense of humor.
I mean, I just can't.
It's part of the job. But when people are criticizing you in the littlest, tiniest details, and I just go, I roll my eyes, but you take it and you turn it on its head, and you just call people out for it.
I really don't care.
Honestly,
my whole thing is I want to help people. I really do genuinely love teaching, and I love seeing someone succeed, or like seeing the growth that they're getting from what I'm teaching them, or anybody's teaching them. And I'm like, yes, go you can now scrub it. Now you understand. That's great. You don't get a lot of that in the OR. And it's unfortunate. But I also have been kind of like pushing to educate more. The past couple places that I've worked, and but I'm not going to beg. I'll say And hey, I really love teaching. I can help the and I can help the FAs. I can do both. And if that goes by the wayside, then that's kind of your loss, you know.
Right.
But it got to the point where it's like, man, I'm just not feeling like very fulfilled. I love what I do, and I know that needed in some of the rooms, the surgeons that I always work with, and that makes me feel good. But I really get a lot of fulfillment from helping other people. That's just my personality. It's who I am. So when I went out there, it's really like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to help everybody now.
Yeah. I love it. And think about how many texts have been out there over the years. And either for those that love to teach, you're very limited with your opportunities, right? I mean, either you go and teach at a school that's, charging these people thousands and thousands of dollars, and, they come in like a conveyor belt, they go out, and you hope that you've touched them, or you take this on your own, which nobody has done. I'm a huge fan of owning your own business.
I think it's kind of insane because I had so many people say this to me, just like, yeah, you should do this, or yeah, I would pay money for this. I'm like, okay, hold on a second.
Totally.
A bunch of people telling me they pay money for this information. Like, obviously, I have a family and I work full time, so I can't do content 24 hours a day.
Right.
And I got to spend time with my kids. But if I can work per diem and mostly do this, I would love that. That would be an ultimate goal of mine. Could I ever quit the OR completely? Eventually, yes, but not anytime soon. I love the OR. I would stay per diem, but I would love to be able to finish
freedom.
I'm in my front room right now with an OR table behind me. Someone sent me a Mayo stand that I'm waiting for. Got it sent to my husband's work, so I'm going to get that. I'm going to have a Mayo stand. A bunch of people are sending instruments and sending donations because they want to see this.
Totally.
And that's why, to the haters, honestly, if I help one person, it's worth it to me. I don't care what other people say. I'm like, you're scrolling by on Facebook and you decide to stop, go all the way down to that message and piggyback onto someone else's mean girl message.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Calm down.
Exactly. I know. You take it with a grain of salt, or talking about your mask or your nails or your whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, really? Look at the content. Look at what she's teaching. It drives me nuts. Like, I want to come through the camera and punch someone.
Message me and just like, oh my gosh, did you see this person? I can't believe they don't know you. I'm like, I don't care. They don't know me. So I don't care.
Exactly. I love that.
Realize that I'm a good person and I'm genuine about helping people. And if they don't see that just from what I'm trying to do, then move on.
On them. It's on them. Yeah. Yeah. I think that your bravery in taking this on, and like you said, nobody has done this. And so I'm like rooting for you to just, obviously you launched, you're not afraid to take things and run with them quickly. And I wouldn't even say you're riding the wave, but you're riding your own wave. You created this wave and you're like, wait a minute, people are listening. This is helpful because and I agree with this, these things are not being taught. And it would be so great if everyone in my OR could watch these videos and learn, because what you're saying is exactly how it should work. And so I commend you for being that like driven entrepreneur who sees something and is just taking it with, taking it by the reins. Because I know that also in like the legal nurse consulting world, a lot of nurses have a lot of our listeners here want to go into this field, but don't feel like they are business savvy because they've worked in the medical field and nobody's ever been, they haven't been taught that. But you're proving you worked in the medical field. You know what? I'm going to just go for it and not worry about things and kind of, open your parachute on the way down, all of those things that I can't come up with right now, that I'm picturing. It's like, that's exactly what you're doing. And if that gives, if that gives any listener the bravery to just be like, I'm just going to do this no matter what and not fear the unknown, because you could fear the unknown on this easily.
Before I hit the button, I'm like, uh-oh, am I really launching this? Do I really want to put this out here? I don't know. Am I ready? Yeah. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I do know that I'm going to help people ultimately, even if it is just enough to pay for the subscription that I'm paying for the app or whatever. That's enough for me. So as long as I get that, I'm good.
Right. No, exactly. And I love it. And like, I think that at least one person in one OR will say either I need that or, hey, you need to check this out, because it saves them from having to teach.
I can't even tell you how many messages I've gotten on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, med students, residents.
Exactly.
Patients, just like, I didn't know that. I'm so interested. That's very interesting to me. I didn't know that this is how that worked. But also I was thinking about it and I'm like, well, why can't everybody know? This isn't like a secret.
Yeah.
OR is not a secret. There's a violation. So I'm going to say, hey, Bobby Joe was in the OR yesterday getting his leg cut off. Like, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to show anybody in the OR.
Yeah.
But I think it's smart to have people educated in the OR and healthcare in general, so that you know how to advocate for yourself and your family members. It's very important.
Absolutely. And you're speaking to the right people here, because we are seeing on our side here, we're seeing those cases that show up that we go, gosh, if they only knew.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly educating about, lead placement, because of medical legal cases we've had, that come across. It's like, it's very eye-opening. And if you don't know, then, unfortunately, you'll find out the hard way. And we don't want, it ultimately comes down to the patient care.
I don't write over fire.
No, but actually placements of the wires, because there have been positional injuries that occur when leads are placed haphazardly, let's just say. So
it's just lack of knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're doing a service to so many. I love that.
Like I said, I had just made a post because I did get a message from somebody on Instagram basically saying like, oh, their baby, like, I love your attitude and everything towards this is great, but their baby's in the OR and they need to be able to handle positive criticism, something about they're coming into our profession. So I made a post about it. I never am going to put someone's name out there. Person. But I put the comment on there and read it, and I just don't agree with that, because this isn't our profession. Now it's your profession also. Totally. We work together as a team. And I feel like the team aspect has changed a lot throughout the years when it comes to even nurse working with tech, and seeing that camaraderie. And I love having fun with my team, and I'm going to go in there. I have not found a person that hates me yet. I'm putting on Facebook right now, but I don't care about that.
Doesn't matter. Exactly. You're not working with them.
Like, I love to go in and just be positive, have a good time. That's how I want to work. I don't want to be miserable every day. I love what I do, and I love helping patients, helping the surgeons. I love all of it. And so the whole team mentality, I think, is not taught enough to where, hey, I understand anesthesia's job, the anesthesia tech. I can go turn over the whole anesthesia machine because I've seen it, because I've had to do it, because they're busy in 4 other rooms, and they're my teammates still. They may be, but they're still my teammates. And I have that relationship with them.
Yep.
And so, you know what? No, go take a break. I'm good. I can turn the anesthesia machine. It's not that hard. You just got to put things on how you took them off. That's it.
Right. No, I love that, because you're not only are you teaching your people, but you're teaching others to work together. What I was just thinking about as you were saying that, I thought, what you're doing for the OR is something that anybody can do for whatever specialty they're in. I mean, I think that you've given permission to people to just go, if it's something that they really want to educate their department, whether it's, ICU, maybe ICU nurses don't work well together. I don't know, because I'm not an ICU nurse, but it sure would be interesting to know how those departments work, or how they work together, right? We were talking about this before we went on. It's like we're in our little silo in the OR. We don't know what else is going on in other departments, but it sure would be nice to know how it works and how that teamwork works. Or, we hear nurse to patient ratio. I mean, when I went to nursing school, it was, I the very little stint of learning that, but we really don't see it. I'm not necessarily saying to show up at, like you said, in an ICU room with a patient there, but you can simulate it like you're doing in your living room and say, here's how it works here, and educate those that don't understand, including patients and patients' families. I think it's a gift you're giving. And I also wanted to say, it's very apparent that you do love what you're doing, and you're not just doing this to get, how people say, oh, you're just doing this to get views or likes or whatever. It's very apparent to people that really pay attention that you do this because you love it, and you do this because you want people to understand how to be successful, because you want operating rooms to run successfully. So you just happen to be the smart one that said, I'm just going to do this. If it means asking for donations to do this in my living room, then so be it, so that there's no question about me filming. I can see this right now. No question about you filming in the operating room.
Kind of stopped doing that because
I can totally see.
I have been kind of talked to. That was about the volleyball one, though. So
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's helpful too. I know that you've had some videos where you were showing, like how the robot works, because like the robot is such a foreign thing to people, that understanding and just seeing it, even if it's an empty room, it's just very, very helpful. But I also understand that, riding the fine line about where you're filming it.
Am I on my break, or am I?
Yeah, exactly. All of those things. Yeah. But you're also smart about it. Look at what you're doing. You're like, okay, understood. Here's how it's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do. This is how I'm going to choose to do it.
Wait.
I know. You're going to build one. Yeah. You know what? There's got to be one that's broken down, sitting in a corner somewhere. It's $1 million machine. Just like, it's just sitting there.
So.
Hey, put it out there in the universe. We're going to see a robot in your living room. If just for a day. There you go. Okay. Well, I would love, what kind of advice would you give, because you are educating other people besides for those in the OR, what kind of advice would you give a nurse who doesn't, let's just say positioning, who doesn't understand what the role of a first assist is in positioning a patient? How would you explain that to a nurse? Say, hey, I know you're a first assist. I know you have something to do with positioning. I'm doing a case right now that's got a patient that was positioned wrong. What would your role be in that? What would you say?
In positioning in general?
I'm just choosing positioning, yeah, because those cases do come up a lot.
Oh yeah. my role in positioning, that's something that I can do. That's in my
right.
Sure.
Yep.
I help my nurse. So if my nurse has any questions, or I'll say, hey, is that wrist, do we need another foam there? Do we need this there? Check the legs up and down and stirrups, make sure that the hands aren't getting caught between the stirrups. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I don't know. My role is to also just help and educate also, because there's a lot of new nurses that come.
Right.
So really, I'll educate and say, we're using the pegboard, and with the pegboard, we always want to make sure that we have foam or something right there because of where they go and how tight they are.
Yeah.
So if they're not put, which I've seen ones not put foam, and then I have to educate them and say, hey, you put this here.
Right. So it comes down to the, a surgeon's preference, but also common sense on patient position and bony prominences and, biomechanics and things like that. So you do have a piece of that role as a first assist, just to educate those out there, as a certified surgical technologist. Without the first assist, they don't have that piece of the puzzle. You do, only because you have that extra certification that you have, really taken those extra pieces of scope and added it to your repertoire as a surgical tech. But yes, as a surgical tech, your job is obviously still patient care, but in a different capacity. So you've got many layers to your scope, but it's good for nurses to hear that, because they really have no idea on what. I mean, most don't have any idea of what those roles are.
I don't know. I'm also just how I am. I'm not going to come in all hot and heavy and do. And so I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to understand, read the room is huge.
I love that you said that. Yep.
If you are a new tech coming in, this happened way too many times. For a new tech coming in, and this surgeon is usually a grouchy surgeon, don't just go in there all telling them about your entire life. It is good. Just kind of sit back, but also understand. You have to try to understand, instead of getting upset with these surgeons, the responsibility that they have, and that everything does come back on them. That being said, it's never okay to be rude and cruel and disrespectful towards your staff.
Exactly.
I have for sure been around frustrated surgeons, ones that had thrown something on the ground because it wasn't working. It was on the ground. It wasn't, apologizing to me after. I'm like, I don't care. I'm frustrated too. It's not working.
Yeah.
Making me mad. I'm still going to do my job. You've never yelled at me or gotten mad at me. I can understand that that's a lot of pressure on the surgeon. They go to all of that school. That patient is their responsibility ultimately. Yes, it's all of our responsibility in the OR. Once they leave the OR, that's not our responsibility anymore. That is all on that surgeon. And so I think that I told someone this. They asked me for some advice dealing with a more difficult surgeon. They told me the scenario, and that's what I told them, is the same exact thing. Once you can shift your mindset and try to just think about things, they're not personal towards you. Not always. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
They are. And you can tell if they are. But when you get the typical, I say typical, but it's not all the time. I work with a lot of great surgeons that are so I'm very fortunate at where I'm at right now. But I think that the condescending type of personality, but you have to understand, no matter where you go, what job you choose, you are going to be working with so many different personalities. You also have to understand your role at the same time and where you're at. I'm not a surgeon, so I'm not going to tell the surgeon what to do. That before too. I'm just not that. What do you need help with? I'm here to help you. I am your assistant. I'm not someone who's going to grab the Bovie after you walked out and I'm closing. I'm not grabbing the Bovie because I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel like I should be doing that because that's not under my surgeon's supervision anymore. So if there's a bleeder and they need me to do something, call them back in here. I'm happy to look and tell me, yes, it is okay for me to do that, or I'm not going to do it because I don't feel comfortable with that. I understand
that's a really good point.
Yeah, I understand my job and what I should and should not be doing. But I think, again, things just aren't taught.
Yeah.
The right way.
Right. No, I love that. And I love the fact that that you've taken it upon yourself to teach and, earn something for teaching, because there are programs out there that teach that may not have given these, staff. It's the same thing with anything. You could say the same thing about the legal nurse consulting world. Oh, I took this course. Did they include the part about, marketing yourself? Or did they include the part about report writing? Or did they include no, they didn't. Okay, well, I need another course. You're filling the gap that people need that is not out there. And I am looking forward to watching you just continue to blow up. And I appreciate you spending time here explaining and sharing. And everybody needs to go support Alyssa and cheer her on and give her a high five. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions. I know that my listeners are really good about messaging people and asking questions, because we'll have nurses from other specialties, and they'll reach out and say, hey, can you help me? Can you answer this question for me? What is it, whatever. What's the protocol, on your unit for this? So it would be the same thing if you have a question about the OR, or a question about, a surgical text scope, or a question about sterility, or a question about anything like that. Alyssa's definitely the one to reach out to. So I appreciate you spending some time with us here.
Thank you.
And can you share with everybody where they can find, number one, where they can find you on social media, and then number two, where they can find your new platform?
So you can find me at Beyond Assisting on pretty much every platform out there. I have it on YouTube, but YouTube is not as updated because it takes forever to load videos. But TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it's all at Beyond Assisting. And in there, you will find my link tree, which then will take you, it has all my links in there, but at the very top is my new app. You have to download it to your home screen so you don't go through the app store. You click on it, but it prompts you what to do, and it's easy. I feel like it's going to be really easy for everybody to just, when you're in the OR about to do a case, you know what, let me freshen up real quick. I'm going to listen to this case real quick.
That's awesome.
2 minutes to listen, and then that helps.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, again, that's helpful for everybody. So, and that all will be in the show notes, so people can just click on that and find you. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. Or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at Anna Gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.